Modeling clay art with Ms. Boley. So in this video, we're going to go through the process of making a modeling clay picture similar to this one. So you can watch the process from beginning to end. And when you make your own modeling clay picture, you will kind of know where to start and kind of how it works. Alright, so what you will need, so you'll need some modeling clay, you will need a cardboard or another flat surface like a canvas to spread your modeling clay on. Make sure it's something that you don't want to use again because getting the modeling clay off of it will be very difficult. You'll need some tools or other objects that you can use to cut or shape the modeling clay. So I'm using a fork, and I have a butter knife, and I have a popsicle stick, and a toothpick works really well. So anything that you can kind of find in your home to add some texture and cut and shape the clay. And you'll need your sketch. So we had done a sit spot observation. If you didn't do a sit spot observation, you can just have a sketch of some sort that you're going to look at as you're creating your picture. Alright, well, what are we learning? So we are reviewing those techniques that we learned with modeling clay earlier. And we're also learning about how to add depth in our pictures. So how to have a background and then some things that are closer up to the viewer and some things that are even more close up to the viewer. Let's have a little quick review of the different techniques that we talked about in our previous videos. So kneading, adding texture, modeling with tools, modeling with our fingers, mixing colors, and we can spread the plasticine out on our flat surface. Alright, let's go. So I'm just going to work through my example so that you can see the process from beginning to end. Alright, so I'm going to start out with my piece of cardboard, and I'm going to create a color that I'm going to use in my background. So I would like my background to be a blue sky, and I want it to be kind of a light blue. So I'm going to take quite a lot of white and just a little bit of blue, and I'm going to mush them together. And remember, this does take a long time, a lot of kneading to mix the colors. So I'm going to do a time lapse to show you how I mix it. And then we're going to spread it all over our background. So here we go. Alright, so I am happy with this blue color that I have. Now I'm going to smush the blue kind of into a flat pancake, and I'm going to smush it onto my cardboard. And I'm going to cover most of the cardboard with this blue, but I'm going to add that purple kind of to the bottom of my background, almost like it maybe is sunset, like the sun is going down, just to make the sky a little bit more interesting. Also, I do have my sketch. I have made a sketch of a dandelion when I was doing my sit spot observation, and I have it nearby. But I'm not sketching it. I'm not using a pencil to sketch onto my cardboard or anything like that. I'm just going to build directly with plasticine. I'm not going to worry about sketching on my cardboard. But I do have my drawing that I've made nearby so that I can look at it. Alright, so I'm going to fast forward a little bit as I spread my plasticine out. And then I'm going to use a different color to do the bottom section of my cardboard. Spreading a whole layer of plasticine all over my background gives me a really nice surface to work on. It gives me something that my plasticine will stick onto really nicely. So that's the reason why we are doing this. So I have my purple added on there. And I don't really love how it has those streaks of purple going like vertically up and down. So I'm going to use my thumb to make them sort of look more horizontal, like the sky would maybe normally be. So more of a side to side motion with my thumb instead of an up and down motion. And then for my very bottom, I'm going to use this dark blue. So my background is actually going to have 3 colors in it, which is a lot. Most of this dark blue will probably get covered up by grass, but that's okay. So just keep in mind, you're going to work from things that are farthest in the background. You're going to do those things first. You're going to make those things first. And then you're going to move into things that are closer and closer and closer to the viewer, the person looking at your picture. So I hope that makes sense. You'll see what I mean as I work through my art piece. Okay, so the next thing that I want to build is some clouds in the sky. So there's going to be my dandelion and some grass in front of the clouds. And so I'm going to do clouds next. So what I've decided how I've decided to do these clouds is I'm going to make some balls and I'm going to smush them so that they're flat pancakes. And then I'm going to kind of stack those, but not directly one on top of the other. I'm going to stack them sort of side by side. And then I'm going to use a tool to add some texture. Alright, so I've got a few little circles. And now I'm going to take a popsicle stick and I really like this technique. I'm going to push my popsicle stick kind of in a diagonal motion to make those little half moon sort of shapes. I thought those looked really nice when I did my texture practice earlier. Alright, so my clouds are made, and now I'm going to use some green to create grass, but I have noticed that this green is quite dark, and so I'm going to do some more color mixing, and I'm going to add some yellow to this green. Okay, I have a nice light green now, and I'm going to roll it into some long ropes. Some long skinny ropes, and then I'm going to squish those flat and cut them into strips. So I'll show you what I mean. We didn't really practice this technique, but I'm just kind of going and doing kind of what feels like it would work well. So I'm making the grass right now, so I'm going to roll into a long rope, move it so you can see it better, and then I'm going to squish it, not super hard because if I squish it too hard it will get stuck to my table, but I'll squish it, flip it over, squish it again, and then I'm gonna use a butter knife to cut some thin strips off of this. And I just feel like those strips will have a wonderful pointy top, and it will make a really great piece. It will make a really great piece of grass. So I saw this technique in another video about creating pictures with plasticine, and I thought, wow, that would be really great for doing grass. So I'm just going to fast forward for a second, and you'll see I'll fill up my whole bottom part of my plasticine picture with little blades of grass. Alright, so now I'm going to just take some little chunks of green and I'm going to smush them into the areas where I don't have any blades of grass, because I ran out of that long coil, and so I'm just going to do it this way. And then I'm going to use a tool to add some texture. All right, so I'm going to grab a fork, and I'm just going to create some little grass type textures by pushing my fork into the plasticine and dragging it a little bit. So I can almost make the grass look like it's blowing in the wind if I curve my fork a little bit. Alright, so now I'm going to make my dandelion. So I'm going to mix a few different colors. I'm going to mix a orangish yellow. I'm speeding this part up because it took a long time. And I'm going to mix a darker green and a little bit of a lighter yellow by adding some whites. Alright, so the colors are mixed. Now I'm going to start building my dandelion. So I'm looking at my sketch, and it has that little like thing under the dandelion like bloom where all the yellow petals come out. So I'm going to make that out of purple clay that I mixed in my earlier video and add some texture to that. And then I'm going to use the same technique that I used for the grass, where I roll a long coil and I smush it flat and I cut it. And I'm going to use that technique to make those little leaves that come out from underneath the dandelion blossom, I guess. So I'm going to do that. I'm just going to speed up a little bit and go through that, and then I'll show you how I make the flower part of the dandelion. Alright, so I rolled up a little ball for the dandelion, the yellow part of the flower, and I kind of smushed it into a little bit of an oval, and I flattened it out. And now I'm going to place that kind of on top of that purple thing there. And I'm going on top of my cloud. So because my dandelion is in front of the cloud, it's going to overlap the cloud. Okay. So now I'm going to use my fork to add some texture. And then I am going to use, I'm going to roll a whole bunch of little ropes out of my yellow plasticine. And I'm going to cut them, and I'm going to use them as if they were dandelion petals. So it's going to take a long time, but I think it's going to look really awesome. So let's speed through that a little bit, and you'll see what kind of the final product looks like. I did end up using a toothpick afterwards to give some more texture, which I didn't take a video of, so you won't be able to see it, but you will get to see the texture that the toothpick ended up making. So here I go. I'm going to roll a bunch of little coils, and I'm going to place them on top of that little circle and place them as if they were little dandelion petals. So here's a bit of a fast transition. Whoa, there's after I added lots and lots of little coils, lots and lots of little little dandelion petal ropes that I rolled out. And now what I've done is I've decided I'm going to add some little mini dandelions in the background. So the reason why they're so tiny is because they are in the background, and this big one is in the foreground. It's not actually a giant dandelion, it's just closer up to the viewer. So I've made some stems in my darker green plasticine, and now I'm going to make some little little balls, and I'm going to add some texture to those. And those are going to be my dandelions in the background. Alright, so I added some texture with a toothpick onto my dandelion. And there is my finished product. So afterwards, you're going to want to take a wet cloth, maybe with some soap, some soapy water, and kind of wipe your work surface because the plasticine is pretty oily. You'll store your plasticine in an airtight container like a Ziploc bag or Tupperware, something like that. Thanks for watching!